everybody, my name is Kayla Fletcher and I am a Pilates instructor based in Toronto. My website is quietbodies.com, and Quiet Bodies is a platform where people can learn and practice Pilates from the comfort of their own home. And I also have an online shop that features my illustrations silk screened onto t-shirts, totes, and tank tops. So today is the 6th tutorial out of a series I've been doing. So if you've just tuned in for the first time, you can go back and there's a few more things that you can learn. These questions refer specifically to Pilates exercises, but certainly there's a lot of information that you can pull out of them to apply to your other practices, like your yoga practice, your dancing, your boxing, your gymnastics, whatever it is that you're doing. Especially today's tutorial. So we're going to be talking about wrist tension. And I think this is really common. And I think the huge reason why we receive a lot of tension in our wrists at first is because our wrists aren't meant to weight bear. We are human beings intended to stand up on our feet, and we're intended to walk around. Therefore, our ankles and our feet are meant to support the weight of our body and not our hands. But that doesn't mean it's not possible, and that doesn't mean that there's not a lot of stuff that we can do in order to work on it. So we're going to be talking today about positioning of your hands, your shoulders, etc. A few exercises. We're going to be talking about the leg pull front, things that you can think about when you're doing your Pilates practice, and things that you can focus on when you're using your Pilates apparatus. And then I'm going to give you a tiny little exercise that you can do before or after your practice. So for that exercise, you're going to need a rolling pin, a maple pole if you're in your Pilates studio, or a wooden dowel. Something ideally that is shoulder width apart. So let's get started. Okay, so let's start to learn and troubleshoot wrist tension in a quadruped position. So to link back to what I said earlier, our ankles are meant to hold and support the weight of our body because we're standing and walking around, and that is how the human body is designed. If you think about your foot, it has an arch. So how can we apply that to our hands here now that we're trying to put body weight onto our hands and our wrists, which aren't really intended to support our body weight, but we know it's possible. So place your hands first right underneath your shoulders. When you're in a plank position and your hands are too far forward, you're going to feel your hip flexors really grip. And if your hands are too close in, closer to your belly button, you're going to put a greater bend at the wrist, which is going to increase the amount of pressure that you feel at this joint. So we really want to line these hands right up underneath our shoulders. Then notice your hands, are you letting them just relax, and then are you hyperextending the elbows, putting all the weight onto your wrists? So spread your fingers wide, press down into the pads of your fingers, especially the thumb, the middle, and the index, and think about grabbing the mat, and immediately you'll feel your hand kind of dome or tent up away from the mat. And that is your arch, that is your support. You will not be able to take all the weight out of your wrist, so keep that in mind, but it is going to help share and distribute some of the load. Then with the bones of your elbows, we don't want to hyperextend because that's going to disconnect you from your arms, your back, and your shoulders, and we need that connection so that we can utilize our whole body. So there's a very, very shy shadow of a bend in the elbows if you do have the tendency to hyperextend. And there's a hug inwards of your arm bones. You're going to externally rotate your arm bones. And immediately you'll feel a connection of your arms into your back. Your shoulder blades, they should be flat. And your lower back should not be sinking. So you're pulling your abdominals in. So like any Pilates exercise, we have now set ourselves up for success before we've gone into the exercise. But before we jump ahead into our leg pull front, which is our plank exercise in our classical mat practice, I'm going to give you a little exercise so that you can practice keeping all of these things going in your arms without losing it, but a little challenge with movement. So you're going to let the chest come down towards the floor, and you're going to let the chest come away from the floor. So I'm moving via my shoulder blades. They're retracting and protracting. So it's a basic movement. It might take you a few rounds just to get the movement going because this is an area of our body we don't have a lot of awareness of. But once you do find this movement, start to notice if you've disconnected in your elbows, if you've disconnected in the pads of the fingers. So that's a great thing to practice. And then we're going to take the feet and step back one at a time into a full plank. Before you get going with the actual choreography, again, you're going to want to make sure that you're still keeping that pressure of the pads of the fingers. Your elbows are wrapping backwards. Your pelvis is slightly lower than the shoulders. Your legs are squeezing together. So I'm using my inner thighs, my glutes, my core, my shoulders, my back, my arms, everything is involved. Okay, now the exercise. I'm going to lift my right foot up. I'm going to shift back and forth once, twice, place the foot down. I lift my other foot up. I shift back and forth. That's stretching my calf. I put the foot down. Lift, shift. Okay, this can be done on your forearms if you want to build that endurance. Okay, then from there, bring the knees down. Now another thing we want to notice is the position of our head. If we let our head drop, we're going to disconnect from these back muscles. So make sure that you are keeping your head, your eyeballs looking kind of in between your thumbs, drawing a straight line there. Okay, another little tip that you can use in your Pilates practice is how are you using your arms in your exercises where you're laying down on your back. So for example, your shoulder bridge and your single leg circle. And this is also going to help prep you for exercises like the rollover, the corkscrew, and the jackknife. So when you're here, we don't just go into our shoulder bridge with the arms kind of floppy like this. Okay, we're pressing our arms down firmly, the full surface of the arm, collarbones are wide and ribs are heavy. So if you practice that, you'll notice immediately a connection to your whole body. And then if you just relax for a second, notice how there's such a huge disconnect. So your palms are pressing down. Sometimes I even like to push outwards if I'm on a sticky mat, like I want to rip the mat beneath me. Same thing with your single leg circle, maintaining that the whole time. So next thing is just a simple exercise that you can do before or after your practice. That is using a dowel from your reformer, or you can use that dowel from the hardware store. I'm going to use a rolling pin because that's what I have. A broomstick works as well. Honestly, a rolling pin, mine is a little short. We want to have something that's about shoulder width apart, ideally. You're going to hold your object straight in front of your chest, and your thumbs are at the same side as your fingers. This mimics the reformer, grabbing your foot bar when you're about to do your long stretch. So I'm going to take my item, I'm going to roll it forward, grab, roll forward. So I'm just passing from one hand to the other, rolling forward. And I'm trying to grab with every finger, and I'm feeling work through the arch of my hand, through my forearms. You reverse it, you grab and pull it towards you. Okay, going slow enough to get all the details. Keeping your ribs closed, your collarbones wide, your elbows straight but not locked, not disconnected. Okay, so very, very simple. Try that a few times. You know, you should feel the work through your whole arm. And then the last little thing is if you're using light weights or any kind of prop or the Pilates apparatus, notice how you're using your hands. So with your weights, are you holding your dumbbells with a disconnected wrist? We want to keep that wrist straight, and you actually want to hold your weight. You're not holding it by just resting into the thumb, okay? You're holding. Same thing if you're using soup cans or a weighted ball. You want to hold it with your hands, not tensing and gripping or squeezing, but holding it. And then if you're using the Pilates apparatus, I've seen some things with the Wunda chair where people are just putting their fingertips on the Wunda chair very delicately, or they're not really holding the uprights on the Cadillac, or just their fingertips are holding, kind of like they're holding a little teacup with the straps on the reformer. So we want to actually hold with our hands, with our grip muscles, with our forearm muscles when we're using the apparatus, and not just letting all of that energy go to waste. So I hope you found that helpful. You can comment below if you have any questions. I'm here to support. Of course, as always, my friends that take my group classes, my clients that take my group classes, we always leave time afterwards to coach and work on some more specific cues and corrections for your own body. But these are a few really great starting off points that I think that will help you transition into a stronger, a more connected feeling in your upper body so you don't get that wrist tension. There are actually a lot more tips, but I'll save it for another tutorial. Thanks for watching, guys.